Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. We're here to celebrate the 30th anniversary of baseball in Kannapolis. Can't believe it's been that long. I think you guys can attest that.
You think that, then what about us?
Does it feel like yesterday, or does it feel like 30 years ago?
From the naysaying standpoint of it, 30 years ago. From looking at what's happening there, just like yesterday.
Yeah.
At least that's how I feel about it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. You know, there's certain parts of it feel like it was just yesterday, and then others feel very long ago.
I'm somewhere in between. It doesn't feel like 30 years, but it doesn't seem like yesterday either. There's some water under the bridge, but really good stuff. I'm probably more focused on what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Well, it's all kind of led up to this point. I don't think Kannapolis would be where they are today without what happened 30 years ago. Do you agree? We were joking earlier, but you guys do look a lot more handsome in those pictures we looked at from 30 years ago.
Come on now.
Oh, I thought you were saying the opposite. I thought it was the other way around.
It's interesting, and I didn't think about this till this very moment, is where I am in my career and my age is where you guys were in your career and your age 30 years ago. And a testament to you, you were actually younger than I am. Everything that you made happen, you were still 5 years younger than I was, which is incredible. I couldn't picture that.
I got one more in here. That's us when we had different color hair.
Oh, I can't wait to see this one.
Yeah, yeah. You'll recognize some of these folks.
So what's crazy is I actually think, so I'm 36. I think Keith was younger than I am today.
Keith was a young guy. When you think about
Yeah, it would have been 30. I think Keith in his early 30s.
Yeah.
Had the distinct pleasure and privilege of building both of the minor league baseball stadiums here in Kannapolis, and had just finished up a year or two prior building a stadium for Hickory Crawdads, and so naturally the chamber called on me to get involved and help them build a budget, and eventually we got an opportunity to build the stadium, so pleased to be here 30 years later. Who is that handsome dude?
I almost had a different color hair. Yeah. My name's Tom Davalt, and I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Kannapolis at that time. And the baseball broker came to me first. Patty Argo was my assistant at that time out front. And she came back and just said, you know, there's a guy out front that wants to talk to you to meet you. Well, I just thought that happened regularly. And he said, I'm a baseball broker. Well, I thought these two were playing a joke on me.
So you guys were close friends?
Oh yeah, we were friends already, and I thought sure they were playing a joke. I'd never heard of a baseball broker. And I kind of treated him like that. Thank goodness. He went, we need to talk. After we had the conversation, I went, why Kannapolis? And he said, you got a map? We went back in the boardroom and there was a regional map, and he said, no home plate of any professional team could be within 30 miles of an existing home plate. So you drew those circles in Greensboro, Hickory, you kind of drew the circles, and Kannapolis was the spot on I-85. After that, it was kind of like any other industrial project. We began to look at places to do it. This, I wanted to do this because this is really kind of how it all started, and these guys probably don't even remember that. We had a board meeting, and everybody signed a baseball, and that's when we said we're going to take this on.
I do remember that.
You do remember?
Yes.
And so that's been hanging in my shelf forever now.
You've been found my signature on
Yeah,
it.
both of you are on there.
Has it changed much over 30 years?
Nope, looks
Yesterday.
sloppy then, it does now.
So obviously some of the next steps then needed to find some money, needed to find some land. And I know these gentlemen had a lot to do with that.
At that time, to do something with Rowan County and Cabarrus County jointly was kind of a new thing in my recollection. Yeah, so we were sort of breaking some new ground in making that approach to bring all those parties together. The three of us having been involved in the initial effort to bring it here, And to be back here 30 years later and still see how far it's come since that time. None of us at that point would, when we built the original stadium and recruited the original ball team, I don't think we would have ever imagined that we would be sitting in downtown Kannapolis today in a facility like this, looking out across the research campus. And of course, at the time that we did this originally, the CEO of Fieldcrest Cannon was one of the people that was very involved in the process. And none of us could have ever imagined that Cannon Mills would not be in Kannapolis either. So it's been quite a transition. And to be able to be on the front end of that and then see where it's come today is a pretty neat opportunity.
Well, both of them were leaders in the chamber at that time. And Keith, of course, is more than just a chamber member. He actually built the first part of the ballpark for us. He was a giant risk taker at his age at that time, and really purchasing the property and beginning the construction.
So Keith, one of your biggest contributions was finding the land to build this ballpark. Can you talk about the story and how that all in the Wyrick family and how everything came to fruition in that sense?
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite stories to tell, because Fieldcrest had been our largest customer for a long time. I had never met Mr. Fitzgibbons. But, I always worked with his lieutenants and doing the construction that we worked for Fieldcrest at. So I remember very well when Tom invited me to be a part of the initial meeting where we were going to ask Mr. Fitzgibbons to name the stadium Fieldcrest Cannon, and Tom had his script all scripted out, and I was just, I was nobody really, but except I was a vendor to Fieldcrest Cannon, and Mr. Fitzgibbons knew we did a lot of work up there, and of course I'd been very involved in the stadium approach, and so Mickey Hicks, Tom, Dave Alt, myself, I think it was just the three of us, and Mr. Fitzgibbons. I'll never forget, we went to the headquarters building, and Tom did most of the talking, and Mickey, of course, worked for Mr. Fitzgibbons, so he introduced us. But Tom got around eventually to asking him, so, well, we want to build this stadium, and we really think it should be named Fieldcrest Cannon Stadium. And
Great pitch.
Mr. Fitzgibbons just smiled, and in a matter of seconds, he said, what's that going to cost me? And Tom popped the number on him. And
what was the number?
$300,000. What a deal.
Wow.
For naming rights.
For naming rights.
And Mr. Fitzgibbons, we thought, well, I'll get back to you on that. I need to run that by the board. And I remember he we can do that.
Yeah,
That
just
quick.
like that.
And we were like, I think Tom's jaw hit the floor, and we all were like, wow. And so then he followed that on with he said, okay, what else can we do? And Tom said, well, we need a piece of property. And he said, well, do you know what you need? And Tom said, actually, it just came up for sale. And he said, well, let's get it. And Tom said, well, we really don't have any money. And Mr. Fitzgibbons looked at me just square on. He said, Wayne, I'll buy half if you will. And I'm like, I was not prepared for that. So what can I say? I said, okay, sure, we'll do it.
This sounds like a meeting you guys were not expecting to go to, in a good way.
In a very good way.
I'm thinking in my head, you're thinking, I should have said 500,000, not 300,000.
All the way up to opening day pitch, there was many that said, it's not going to happen. It's never going to, not here, not in Kannapolis, just can't happen. But it did, and the whole community and the Sports Authority and the Chamber of Commerce and the city and the counties, they proved it, the naysayers wrong, that it did happen, it was successful.
Steve, what was the sense of the public as they learned about this? Obviously our politicians, local officials, it was mixed, but
I think with the public it was mixed as well. I think there were some folks that were skeptical, some folks that thought it was really exciting. I'm not sure that we had instilled the belief in people that we were really going to be able to pull it off, because there were still a lot of steps after that.
there is nothing that won't have opposition. You can't do anything without opposition. I had a chamber at our next state meeting. What came up from the guy at the podium, he said, well, if Kannapolis get a baseball team, we can do anything. So it was surprise from everybody all across the state of what was happening, and it just simply wouldn't have happened without unbelievable volunteers. When I look around and see the ballpark and this magnificent facility, it could not have happened if it hadn't been for the giants that were there, and all these people stand on their shoulders. And if they could see this, many of them aren't with us anymore, but if they could see this, they would be so, so proud of what's happened from day one.
So let's talk about the construction of the ballpark now. Keith, I think we talked about it earlier, as we think it could be a world record for the quickest ballpark that was ever built. But when did the shovel go in the ground?
It was the day after Labor Day. We were able to start, and this was a very heavily wooded site. The entire site was heavily wooded, so we started removing the trees and clearing the land the day after Labor Day, which would have been, I don't know, September 5th or something. And so that was the beginning, and the first pitch was already set to be
April 9th.
April something. Yeah. We didn't know the exact date, but it had to be April something. And so when the league got together and set their schedule, the opening day was, I think, April 6th or something. So.
As soon as we got the go-ahead and we knew it was going to be a reality, we started thinking of ways to raise money to help support the construction of the stadium. So we had engraved bricks that we were selling to the public. People had an opportunity to buy their seats and have engraved plaques put on the seats. I think that was one of our more successful pieces. We had a scale model of the stadium to show people what it was going to be, because at that first game, none of the bathrooms had not been constructed, any of that. So we were out at every game with that scale model of the stadium, showing people what it was going to look like when it was finished, and that was part of our sales pitch to get people involved in it. So that was a fun part of the experience, having an opportunity to share with people what the vision was and what they were going to see when it was completed. And here's a picture of the model with me looking at it and our banners on the back.
You were approached by all these different architects.
Yeah,
Like, what was that like? And
Well, he took a risk. I mean, we didn't have any money, so we couldn't hire an architect. And he basically began to do it. He agreed to do it and hope he got the bid. And it turned out exactly that way. Keith and his crew did a remarkable job. The field was ready, the stands were ready, everything was ready to play. And so all the ceremonies happened before and the game was played. But along the third base line, I must have been 30 porta-johns lined up right beside each other. And that was the whole season, that first season, while they were constructing the rest of the stadium and putting together the press box was there, but other than that
was the only structure that was there. So all the concession stands were portable, all the restrooms were portable. You know, everything was temporary that first season, but it was a lot of fun.
We played baseball.
Yes.
yeah.
The first phase of building the stadium, which we were in charge of, to get the stadium open, was not the complete project. I mean, they cut it back. In the second season, they built the concessions, and they would have built this roof and a canopy and other things had they been able to raise the money to try to get the full measure of stadium built, which
Makes sense.
we fell a little short.
Right.
You know, and we had to cut back, and that's why the seats weren't installed. That's why the roof didn't get built.
But if we had not done that, this wouldn't be here.
Yeah. For all of you guys, you mentioned letter to the editor.
Oh, yeah.
And I think about when we changed our name to the Cannonballers and the backlash we got, or we obviously, people will speak their mind. And there's times I laugh at so many of those stories, but are there any of those letter to the editors or comments that you look back on and you laugh at, or those that stick out in your mind?
Well, I let them affect me more than they should. I learned over years not to do that. But one of the key leaders was Floyd Alford, and he was over the newspaper. So he was a calming influence for us, saying, look, that's just the way the paper works. And he would calm us down after we would read something like that. And he passed away very soon after the ballpark opened up. So I'm not sure he gets the credit that he really deserves for making it happen.
Yeah. And you know, there have been a lot that have passed or moved on, but for all you guys, what do you think those people would say about where we are today in Kannapolis?
I don't think any of them would possibly be able to imagine that we would be seeing the view behind us that we're seeing right now with the research campus and everything that's happened in downtown Kannapolis, and having that same effort from 30 years ago be the centerpiece of the new Kannapolis. I don't think any of us or any of them could have ever imagined that at that time.
I truly hope 30 years from now I can talk about this ballpark in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. I can pretty much promise you I will not be here 30 years from now.
Oh, we hope so.
And Keith, I think it's special for you because you guys are still a partner. You're a key partner of the Cannonballers until today, 30 years later, but I think that's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this project as a second baseball project and all the other projects that were related to that in town is really about relationships for me.
I mean this sincerely, is thank you guys. It's been an honor learning about the history of baseball at Kannapolis. I didn't know a lot going into this process, and the past 3-4 months learning about it has truly changed my perspective on everything. And being in my role today, this would not be possible without you guys. And this has really put Kannapolis, our region, on the map, and it's because of community support, but individuals that have stepped up to the plate like you guys.